Escape from reality.
Choosing what games you make content out of when making gaming content can be difficult. On one hand, if you choose a popular game, everyone and their mothers have already talked about that game. Sure, it has a huge fan base, it's popular, but how do you stand out when you're a fish in the ocean? On the other hand, you can be the very first to cover that obscure game you love that no one else has ever made a video of. Then, because the game is obscure, no one's really looking for things about it either. The fans that eventually find it will love it, but others may not click on the video if they don't know the game, and it's the reason you see so many vague titles now, like the scariest horror game you've never heard of, or how this one game shook me to my core, or even something really stupid like this game is ruining my life and then ends up being about Farm Merge Valley. Imagine that. Over time, there are creators who have become known for covering indie games and AA games. Oftentimes, they're the first to play a game right before it blows up, and then they blow up with it. Once people know your name, you become a trusted creator, and people will watch whatever it is you cover. You don't need the name power of a game to get you views. There are also a ton of streamers who pretty much exclusively cover indie games, but that's where things started to bother me. You see, I stream on Twitch. I average a whole 2 viewers, thank you very much. And a few years ago, I started mostly playing indie games. And when I would look up these games after I was done playing, you begin to notice a pattern. You'd have some stream VODs, you'd maybe have some uncommentated walkthroughs, but then that was it. There was no conversation around these games. They were being played once for content, uploaded, and then kind of forgotten about. There was no documentation or summary of thoughts and opinions. The only way you could really find anything about a game is maybe if it has a small niche subreddit or Steam reviews, which you can't really have a conversation on those. It just felt like people playing the game, and then that was that, which sounds silly when you say it out loud, but sometimes we have games where we still have debates online about games like BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us Part 2, countless others, games that we are still talking about to this day, whether it be for story purposes or mechanic purposes, and these smaller titles live to just be played, and then the conversation was over. No one got to talk about it, and it just felt weird to me. It felt like a problem I wanted to help fix. I have often told people that I know, to the point where it probably annoys them and they don't believe me, that I could easily upload a video every single week on this channel if I was only covering one game per video. The thing is I write incredibly fast. I edit incredibly fast. But you've never seen this if you're a subscriber of mine, because I either write 90,000 words into one video, or I use my free time to edit for other people like the Speedrunner Simply or AVNJ. Hopefully at least one person just went like, whoa, that was you, oh my gosh. But I've only uploaded like 19 real videos on this channel, and January 1st, 2026, which is the day after this video goes up, will mark my 7th year of Reality Escape. And to only have 19 videos is quite honestly pathetic. So as I was playing these indie games, thoughts were forming in my head. I wanted to write them down. I wanted to organize things so that if you wanted opinions or a conversation about the game, you didn't have to scroll through a 9-hour VOD, which was filled with people saying, hey, thanks for the sub, thanks for the bits. These games weren't perfect, but that's what made them interesting to talk about. Why did devs make these choices? Was it budget? Were there limitations in the know-how? Was it boldness and bravery? Why did this mechanic work and why did it not blend with this mechanic? I realized that if I truly wanted to talk about game design, this is where the best conversations were. After every single stream, in one sitting, I would write an entire script for the game I had just played, start to finish. And I began just stacking them up and having nothing to do with them. There was 2 major problems I was facing. One is that I used to upload a weekly show on this channel back in 2019. It was an unscripted show called Quick Game, Quick Thoughts, where I talked about different Flash games that I remembered from my childhood. It did terrible for my channel, absolutely tanked my analytics, because no one was clicking on these videos unless they knew the game. No one really knew me well enough to watch whatever I put out. And it also buried the bigger videos that I wanted to be the main focus of the channel. So if I uploaded all of these indie and AA games here, well, the same thing would happen. I would have a big fancy video that I was proud of, that I wanted attention on, but it would get lost in the shuffle. I also used to make way more broadly titled videos like genre dissections and whatnot, and these always did better, but it wasn't really the direction I wanted to take this channel. Plus, you know, there's kind of only so many genres before that well goes dry. Only if I felt super passionate about a single game would I make a video on it. And even then, I tried to talk myself out of it all the time because it just felt like, there's no way this is going to do well. And that's why those videos are amongst the worst performers on my channel, despite the fact that they're some of my favorite I've ever made. The other problem is that I was streaming these games. I had chat on screen and notifications, and I could turn those off, but I don't know, they're charming. I kind of like them. It's cool to have them for when I'm doing highlights over on Reality Escape Plays. It reminds me of what people were saying at the time, and I can zoom in if something noteworthy is said. And that means if I wanted to hold up to the standard of this channel, I would have to replay every single game to get clean footage, and then it just felt like so much work when I'd already played the game. So what was my solution? Well, earlier this year, I did a small test run. I made 8 videos in 8 weeks, and I uploaded them on my personal channel, Ghostboy259. I used the collab tool, so if you're a Reality Escape subscriber, you may have seen them in your feed, and I did it to test to see if there was an audience, if people were interested, and if I could maintain a once-a-week schedule. And I'm happy to report it was a yes to both. I was able to spend 1 day a week working on highlights and this new channel, and then the other 6 working on Reality Escape content. You might think, wow, that's a lot of time to work on Reality Escape content without uploading, but I promise you're going to be seeing a lot of that work coming out within this next year. I only average about 1,000 to 2,000 views from subscribers here on Reality Escape. The rest kind of come from random suggestions or browsing features. So the fact that I was getting about a quarter of that consistently on a new channel gave me a lot of hope. And I already have almost 500 watch hours over there, which is 1/8 of what I need to be monetized. And so, starting in February of 2026, I will be uploading weekly videos on the Ghost Boy channel. Every Sunday, I will cover either an indie game or a AA game, or perhaps even covering some old school well-known games that I've never just played until now, with the main premise being, is it a game that maybe most people have never heard of? So what is this video you're watching right now? Well, all of those videos get deep into mechanics. I go into whatever I feel like I want to talk about and give the viewer a rundown so that if you want to play the game yourself after watching, you have the right information to do so. And normally for the more story-based videos, I'll include some spoiler talk as well. But this video, while yes, is basically a giant advertisement for my second channel, is kind of a shortened, condensed version. Those videos over there go from anywhere from 8 minutes to an hour, and it just really depends on how much I have to say. For this video, I've written a paragraph or two, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, about every game I have streamed over the last few years. And we're gonna start a new tradition. Every New Year's Eve, I will post a video just like this, basically recapping all the games I played on stream that year that either have been or will be made into Ghost Boy videos. I personally love these like 20 hidden gem list videos, and I want to do my part to introduce people to the world of smaller studio gaming, especially in a world where, well, let's be honest, AAA gaming seems to be filled with less humanity by the second, and gaming on a budget is becoming more of a necessity. This video contains games I played in 2023, 2024, and 2025, but since I'm only uploading one video a week on that channel for now, and I only just started a few months ago, it will also cover games that I haven't made videos on yet, like the scripts are all written, but because I'm not monetized on that channel, I can't really justify spending all that time over there when I'm about to do a massive reboot of Reality Escape over here. I gotta focus on money this year, unfortunately. But like I said, those videos only take one day to make. I stream the game, I write the script, edit the VOD, and then I do the video the next day, and it's about 8 to 10 hours in total depending on how long the game is, and I feel confident that that is something I can maintain. My goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers on that channel by the end of 2026. I'm at about 550 right now, and if I can do that, then I will move that channel schedule to twice a week, basically meaning I'll spend 2 days a week on that channel, 5 days a week on this one. I want to stress that although it may seem like this is going to somehow end Reality Escape, which is, already incredibly inactive because I'd just be shifting my focus, the reason I'm trying to get this Ghost Boy channel going is because I no longer have the desire to seek freelance editing employment, and it would basically be replacing that work. It would be something regular that I do that I have to get done, and then Reality Escape is where I spend my extra time. And if I can get that channel monetized, it means so much for the long-term viability of my kind of run here on YouTube. Even if I got a 9 to 5, I feel pretty confident I could still upload weekly there, and just being able to do something and stay in the creative sphere would mean a ton. Reality Escape is still going to be my main focus for now, but for the sake of my financial future, being able to upload consistently and weekly would just be really big for me at this time in my life. But as for this video, this is going to be a list of 34 games, some that were made into Ghost Boy videos, some that have yet to be made, and some that didn't get made at all, and my goal is to introduce you guys into a brand new world of gaming. For you to find maybe just one game on this list that you think looks cool and you want to give it a go. And if you want to support me and this new channel, besides subscribing and going to watch the videos over there, which will be way more in depth than what you'll see here, you can follow me on Twitch and watch me play these games live for the first time as I'm formulating my thoughts. If you can't catch the stream, there's the highlights on Reality Escape Plays. And those videos come out about a week before the Ghost Boy videos, so you can kind of get a sneak peek on what's going to happen. There's also a Discord where we just hang out and I post updates in. I post really amazing memes on Bluesky because I'm a swaggy boy. And I also have a Patreon, although I understand I have to earn the trust for financial support, but if you're inclined at all, then it helps a ton. Finally, just to be completely transparent with you, no developer or publisher whose game is featured in this video has paid me or given me a free key or anything like that. I get tons of emails with free keys, promotional kits, people asking me to make content for their video or stream it for free, and I pretty much ignore every single one. If you have sent me an email with your game, and I think it's cool, I have probably wishlisted it and I will buy it at a later date, but I don't take any games for free, simply because I don't want anyone to think my opinion is bought and paid for, and because I'm normally buying from smaller developers, I want to do my part. I want to buy it like a consumer, factor cost into how I feel about things. So if you're a smaller dev, feel free to email me your game and all the press kit and stuff if you want to bring it to my attention. But just know I can't promise I'll play it within the next few years. I have a long list of games that I have planned to play for this channel, like over 300 that I bought this year to get ready for this. So with all of that out of the way, I hope to introduce you to something that you've never seen before, and welcome to our new New Year's Eve tradition. Here is a list of 34 games you've probably never heard of.
Timelie.
Yeah, I asked my British friend to say the names of the game for me. I can't explain why. It just felt like the right thing to do. Shout out to Glassy on Twitch.
Hi, Ghost Boy.
She's a total sweetheart, did this for free on short notice, so please go give her a follow for me. She just started streaming full-time this year, so go hang out and tell her I said hi. Timelie, developed by Unique Studio, is a puzzle game where the player will control either a girl or later on a girl plus a cat. The entire game runs along a timeline. You can go forward, see what sentry guards will do on their patrol, and then create the perfect setup to get around them. It's a very simple concept to get a grasp of. Don't get caught in the line of sight, pause and rewind if you do, and maybe hide a bit longer, or take an alternate route, or try hitting a button to close a door first. It starts off really simple, and it gives you plenty of time to grasp the concept before getting pretty difficult and sometimes having literally dozens of moving parts within a level. Like, sometimes you have to time everything perfectly before a guard hits a certain button which locks you out of the rest of the level. Later in certain levels, you'll get these little floating collectible things which will rewind time, but maybe something has changed, like a bridge is now open that wasn't open before, which will change the drone sentry's pathing. And it's a really cool way to see maps evolve and change. You might actually do the same map 3 or 4 times because every time you make progress, they're changing the rules on you. If that's all too easy for you, there's some free DLC. I didn't check it out because the top comment on Steam reviews simply says for masochists only. As for the base game, I spent I think about 6 or 7 hours playing, which maybe is a little low considering the price point, but if you're really bad at puzzle games, you might be able to stretch that out by quite a bit. There's a bit of background story during the game where it's not super prevalent, but the ending half legitimately blew my mind. And you can hear me talk about it in the Ghost Boy video, there's a spoiler section, but the gameplay alone is enough for me to recommend this game.
Sable.
Sable is an open-world exploration game by Shedworks that really takes an unconventional approach to the game, but overall I think it has a lot to offer the player. I can honestly say I have never played anything like it. You play as a young girl named Sable who has to go through a process called her gliding, where basically she has to venture the vast desert, meet people from all walks of life, and ultimately decide what she wants to do with the rest of her life as a career. No pressure. There are 2 things that make Sable stand out for me, and the first one is pretty obvious. It's the visuals. The game is very stylistic. I adore the art in this game, not just the art style, but the actual art pieces within it, like how everyone wears a unique mask. It's no surprise this is a huge aspect of the game, and probably the reason a lot of people bought it. When you see comments about this game, it's 99% of what people are talking about. The animation is really cool, there's so much subtle world building in everywhere. The visuals alone sell the game. Unfortunately, there is a lot of performance issues reported. I did have a few myself. The second thing about this game is the fact that it's about making a massive decision. A decision that all adults who are watching this have had to make at some point or another. What are you going to do with your life? But there is pretty much zero pressure ever put on the player. You are free to wander the wastelands, talk to every single person you can, collect every single mask offered to you, discover pretty much every single profession you can do in this world, and every character you meet has gone through their own gliding. They've gone through the same process, and they all say the same thing. Take your time. In a real world that puts so much pressure on making life decisions quickly and, let's be honest, uninformed, I think it's so cool to have a game that does the opposite. Take your time. You don't have to make a decision tomorrow or next week or next month. You can just keep exploring. It's different for everyone. There's even a character who has finished her gliding many years ago and now has decided to start a new career path, and you can help her discover that. The exploration is also fantastic when the sun sets and you can see the shadow over the sand. There's just something really beautiful about it, and I can just ride along and enjoy the vibes most times. It's a lot though, so if you're not a fan of just quiet travel, this may not be for you, and this is also where a lot of the performance issues have kicked in for most people. There is a secondary story going on about who these people are, how they ended up on this planet. There's remnants of old technology, and there's so much to discover as well. There are weird little creatures, there's talks of creators and gods, and if you just like to wander in games and get lost, find small things hidden here and there, and read lore, this game is perfect for you. Now, I know some people upon hearing my description may think this game isn't for them. There's no points, there's no combat, there's no way to lose or die, but I think this game just appeals to a very different genre of gamer. It's like one of those cozy, comfy games, but just a step above that. While I do think longtime gamers can still enjoy this game and get something out of it, I also think this would be a great entry point for someone who maybe doesn't have that much experience playing games. There's a great comment by user Addon on Steam who I think sums it up perfectly. They just say, if lo-fi was a game, this would be it, and that's why I like it. Pretty good way to sum it up. If you find yourself constantly being stressed out by the games you play, or maybe you just need a bit of a mental break from life, or maybe like me, you're going through a lot of self-discovery on your own right now, and you just need some time to really think about who you are and what you want, this might be a good game for you to try.
It comes in waves.
When Elon was breaking Twitter and created the For You tab, the only good thing to come from it was the indie game recommendations that I suddenly started seeing. And the very first one I saw was It Comes in Waves, created by solo developer Antonio Freire of Merlino Games. The game is roughly an hour long, there's no saving or anything, so if you die you have to completely restart. It's part of the gimmick of the game. The game is very cryptic, but I won't spoil it here because I definitely think it's worth playing. It's short, but it's very sweet. There's something just so cool and magical about it. The very calm atmosphere while traveling, yet it's very tense because of the resources that you need to go find. There's a constant scramble to make sure you have water, and the mechanics for shooting are very, very simple, but it just comes together so well. It's not overcomplicated, and it doesn't need to be. You know what you're doing within the first 2 minutes. It's just a perfect balance of what it is. Your goal is to basically make it around the map with a fully grown specimen, doing whatever you can to get the water needed to survive. You have to wait a certain amount of time for the specimen to grow before you can hit the end, so most of the game is just you looking for water. There isn't a ton to discover in this kind of open desert wasteland, but when you do discover something, it really stands out, and it's awesome because you have no idea what it means. You can just kind of stare at it and guess. It's a whole moment, but you also can't just stop and stare because you need to be on the hunt for your next bit of water. You might see something off in the distance, but if there's no water there, then you're taking a big risk. Or you'll see some guys and maybe you want to shoot them, but maybe you're not supposed to shoot them. You can't take more than 100% water with you, but if you start shooting one, you're gonna have to shoot them all. Like I said, it's a very short experience, but it's extremely well done. Originally, the other Merlino games were all going to be on this list, but I've actually opted to wait, and I'm going to create an entire video dedicated to all of the Merlino games that have been released thus far on the second channel sometime in 2026, so stay tuned for that.
Praey For The Gods.
I've never played Shadow of the Colossus, and I intend to one day, but in the meantime, we have Shadow of the Colossus at home, and it's called Praey For The Gods. And it has that extra A in there because ZeniMax Media wouldn't let them trademark Praey For The Gods because they owned it for the game Prey. Go figure, I guess. Praey For The Gods is a game developed by No Matter Studios, a 3-person indie dev team, which is just unreal. There is a lot to love about this game, but there's an equal amount to critique as well, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's a very Nordic type story. You're basically sent to a frozen part of the world and you just need to defeat these titans, I guess they're called, to basically save the world from this eternal winter. From there, it's just a matter of exploring, surviving, finding these bosses, and then downing them one by one. The main issues stem from the parts in between the boss fights. The game just feels like it's trying to do too many things. The combat outside of the boss fights is pretty lackluster. The crafting is, well, it's crafting. The survival aspects are very generic. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing, there's just a lot of different things, and they don't necessarily blend well together. In a game where you slay titans and have boss fights and objectives, it's a bit weird to be upgrading a weapon that doesn't come into play at all. You don't actually use weapons to attack these titans. But because you have this secondary combat that's completely different from boss fights, it's nice to have that extra weapon in case one breaks. But almost all of that secondary combat is avoidable, and the only reason you would do it is to get better weapons to do more of that secondary combat. It literally never comes into play for the main fights. They feel like very two different experiences that honestly could have been two different games. The boss fights themselves are really great, in my opinion. I can't speak from the perspective of someone who has played Shadow of the Colossus, but outside of like one really annoying one and one not quite working the way I felt like it should, I thoroughly enjoyed all the fights, especially this one that flies around in the air. I was legitimately sweating, and I was so nervous during this fight, while also just in awe at the visuals around me and how much fun I was having trying to take this beast down. I don't think I'm the only one when I say this, but I love playing games that aren't perfect. Now, there are definitely people who love playing games that aren't perfect, but normally it's because they love tearing things down or reassuring the developers, hey, I could have done a much better job at your game. But for me personally, I love to see the developers' intentions. I want to figure out things from their perspective, see what they wanted to do, if they pulled it off, how they pulled it off, or why it didn't work if it did. It's one of the reasons that one of my favorite videos I've ever made is my dissection of Murdered Soul Suspect, because I thought long and hard about why things felt so disconnected in that game, both mechanically and plot-wise. And Praey For The Gods is perfect for this kind of thing too. There are things that we can take from this game and we can learn from it. We can think about the games we're playing and why they make these choices. I seriously mean this from the bottom of my heart, because I know there are some of you out there. If you're watching this and you're an aspiring indie dev, and this is a game genre that you'd like to dabble in, whether it be survival or a big boss rush, please go play this game. Find out for yourself what parts are amazing and what parts just didn't click. I think these middle of the road games are so important because that's what inspires creativity. Some people get inspired by watching the best movies of all time, but some people get inspired by watching the worst movies of all time and thinking how they could improve on it. But personally, the thing that makes me want to make a game or make a movie are those ones that are just on the verge of something great, but they just don't quite get there. There's legitimate conversation about how the best way to play Praey For The Gods is on easy mode, since all of the survival mechanics don't affect the boss fights. Just remove them altogether, make it so they don't really mean anything, and turn the game into a boss rush. And that's really fascinating to me. For what it's worth though, I know I'm talking about how things didn't work in Praey For The Gods. I really enjoyed my time with it. It's a labor of love, especially for 3 people. And as disconnected as it was, I do think it's worth playing. Maybe not at its current price point, but if you see this game on sale or on a bundle and you like this style of boss fights, I think you can find some enjoyment in this for sure.
Wavetale.
Wavetale is an absolutely gorgeous looking game with some of the most fluid and satisfying movement I've ever experienced in a game. And there is quite a bit of it. It can certainly take a while to get from place to place, but much like a game such as Sable, it's a part of the experience. It's genuinely just really nice and calming to do these flips and tricks on the water, and I didn't mind how long it took to travel. There is some light combat. It's certainly a very easy game and not something an experienced gamer will struggle with, but I also disagree with people who said that the combat was completely pointless. I do think it adds a little bit of something, but it's definitely not intended to be the main focus. There's a decent amount of platforming involved. There's some cool mini games, like you get to do a time trial race, which I kind of wish there was like 15 more of these because it was really fun. And there is an overall engaging story about how this world became flooded, and there's some generational trauma that came with it. The music is outstanding, the visuals are really cohesive, and I love the way the characters' faces move around and react to things. It's definitely on the shorter side of things, but you can pick this game often up for like $2, and it's totally worth it if you can do that. It manages to be both a high-stakes game and also just really chill at the same time.
Dofromantic.
I was enjoying this game until my friend came in and asked why I was playing, because this game requires a brain, implying I don't have one. It hurt my feelings a lot, so much so that I never made a Ghost Boy video about it, nor did I even upload the highlights of me playing. Honestly, it's really cool. It's a fun little time waster. I'm sure it gets more complicated and more in-depth the further you play. I could see like a version of myself from high school playing something like this on my phone instead of paying attention to math class for sure. And visually, I think everything looks great. I just don't have a ton to say about it. It's puzzle, it's world building, it's fun, it's cool. Go check it out if that seems like it would float your boat.
Where Cards Fall.
I actually never bothered to make a second video about Where Cards Fall either because, well, I just never really got into it. The game is a neat puzzler where you need to stack cards into bridges or buildings to get your main character to his destination. The controls just felt awkward to me. Oftentimes I found myself trying to do something and somehow I wasn't hitting the right button, or somehow something I thought that was very possible and obvious to do was in fact not doable. I think the moment the game went downhill for me personally is when they introduced jumping on ledges. I can honestly never tell what's jumpable or climbable and what isn't, and maybe people with bigger brains than me can figure this stuff out, but I was just getting stumped and frustrated that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I never finished the game, although I do think I was pretty close, and I don't hate it, it's just not for me. There's a little story in between levels of this main character and his life, and he's overcoming awkward growing teenage years, and he has a crush or something, but it wasn't enough for me to really stay engaged, and if anything, it just kind of broke up chunks of gameplay with really long, quiet cutscenes. But again, I don't think it's that bad, I just wish I was better at it so I could have finished it.
Sea of Stars.
If there's a game you probably heard of on this list, it's probably Sea of Stars, an absolute love letter to old school RPGs, but it's modernized in almost all of the right places. There's a few things that I'm a little on. It was heavily acclaimed and extremely successful, to where even a year and a bit after the game came out, they were still releasing major gameplay updates like co-op, or to fix mechanics that people didn't like, or I don't know, drop an entire 10-hour free DLC. The gameplay is really solid. I've seen some people say that it was a bit repetitive, but it's a turn-based RPG, that's kind of their thing. And I also just have to disagree, because they're constantly throwing new things at you to keep it interesting, whether it be different characters or new abilities, and I think people who complain about it being repetitive may just not be a JRPG or turn-based RPG kind of fan. It's kind of always ends up in a loop at some point. The combat is heavily based on timing, but the game has tons of accessibility options to change this, although not without consequence, and there's a few other options that can drastically change gameplay, making it easier or harder. Personally for me, the base settings were the perfect challenge, not so hard that I had to leave and grind at any point, but I didn't have a deathless playthrough either. I had to repeat a few boss fights. There are puzzles sprinkled throughout the game. There's nothing crazy intense until you get to the extra content. If you're gonna 100% the game, then it gets a little excessive. There's a side game called Wheels, which, God, I adore. I love Wheels so much. I want this to be a bigger thing somehow. There's a lot of collectibles, which again is right in line with this genre of game, and it all adds up to this big secret 100% ending, which I recommend doing because the game just doesn't feel complete without it. Even if you don't go 100%, go like 90%, do like the big things. I'd say the weakest aspect of the game is unfortunately its story. It's a little basic for an RPG, and while I like a ton of the elements the story brings, and I like the twists and the turns and where it all leads, it's just the execution is a bit rough for me. But I've also seen the same thing said about a game like Kingdom Hearts, which I feel like these two games have a ton of similarities, and my main response is generally, if you don't like really baseline cliche anime dialogue about laughter and friendships, you probably won't like the story in Kingdom Hearts, so you probably won't like the story in Sea of Stars either. There's a ton of aspects I don't like about Kingdom Hearts, and a lot of them are in Sea of Stars, like characters laughing at things that aren't really funny, or cliche, or being soft little uwu cinnamon rolls. The two protagonists in particular are the weakest point of this game. They are boring and generic, they are just determined people who want to do their mission, but they don't have any sort of distinguishable personality traits from each other. Basically interchangeable, which feels like such a lost opportunity, although I will say the DLC addressed this, and my goodness, they took the criticism and they understood it and they worked to correct it. It's unfortunately too late for the base game, but if you play the DLC after you're done the base game, you'll see that they've definitely understood that this was a weak point and worked to try to make it better. I honestly don't think the story and the characters are bad by any means. I think it's just underwhelming given how good the rest of the game is, which unfortunately works against it a little bit. Normally, I'm someone who can keep playing a bad game mechanically if the story is good enough, and in this case, the game mechanics were really fun, and the story was engaging enough to keep me invested to want to finish it. Like I said, it's just how they get from point to point. It's not maybe the smoothest. Shout out to my boy Garl though, who by far out of any character is the best written and unintentionally the funniest, even if he's all about the power of friendship and nothing else. Like I said, it may sound like I'm critiquing the game more than praising it. It's one of the few games in my life I've ever 100%ed. I have well over 60 hours in the base game, and I played the whole DLC twice as well. It's completely free to do the 10-hour DLC, which is such a goodwill thing to do for the developers. Super cool that they did that. The music in this game is top tier, some of my favorite that I've heard in a long time. This is one of those games that I say where if you look at the gameplay and you think you would like it, you will. Try it out. It's a 40 to 60 hour commitment, With a lot of games in that genre, that's probably on the lower side, and it can be a lot if you're busy with life. It took me over a year and a half just because work and scheduling and personal life and health and all that stuff, but I never got the feeling of like, man, I really don't want to go back and finish it. It was by far my favorite game that I played in 2023, and then it took me so long that I continued to play it in 2024, and then I didn't finish it until 2025. But if you're looking for a game made with pure love and passion for video games, I can't recommend this enough. It's flaws and all, it's good.
Slopecrashers.
A snowboarding game heavily inspired by one of my favorite franchises of all time, Snowboard Kids, and yes, I have a video on Snowboard Kids too on this channel. Slopecrashers takes an underutilized concept and brings it back to the modern view. With 7 maps, most that have alternating pathways so that you can play in different ways, a physics system that loves doing 100 spinning tricks in the air, and cute characters that you can customize to your heart's content, there is a lot to do in this game. However, there are a few shortcomings that prevented me from really loving it. The campaign is grindy and repetitive with only 7 different looking maps. When you get hit with an item or mess up a trick, you respawn instead of picking yourself up, which really disoriented me every time I played, and I had a ton of issues running the game smoothly even on the lowest settings, although I think that was on my end. There also used to be issues with weapons and attacks homing in, you couldn't dodge them, but the developer actually commented on my video and said that this was fixed, which is super cool. I'm always very cautious that I know a developer might see my video and I know they're not made of iron skin and I know that they're not exactly working with massive budgets, so I always try to keep things respectful, and it's really cool when I can engage in a dialogue with a developer like I did under this video. I really wanted to like Slopecrashers, and I do, it's just not something I see myself grinding out fully. Some maps, when you're doing 2 laps, take like 8 minutes to finish. The maps are so open that I can barely see my opponents sometimes, but I do think it's a great foundation and I hope to see the game built upon in the future or something else like this. When I first played the game, it was only out for about 2 weeks, and unfortunately it just never picked up a fan base because I do think multiplayer would be super sick in this game, but I just don't think anyone's really had a chance to try it. The developer, when commenting on my video, mentioned that it was a solo product and even admitted that they were a bit ambitious with some things, and there were other things they wanted to change, but they were just too far into development to do so. But I'm really looking forward to whatever comes next, and if you're looking for a newer snowboarding game with some old school cartoony flavor, or maybe you think that's something your kid would be into, this game could be for you.
The Last Campfire.
The Last Campfire is a really basic but really fun puzzler game that I recommend to anyone who wants to get into these kind of puzzle games, but maybe you've never played them or have very minimal experience. The puzzles are a perfect mix of not too easy and not too hard, and there's a good variety, so you actually get a little bit of everything, but not in a frustrating way. It still has some cohesion to it, but not too much that you always feel like you're doing the same thing. Everything is pretty straightforward, but also not so straightforward that you'll get everything on its first try, but some you will get first try and some you'll spend half an hour on, because that's just the nature of puzzle games. There's these small condensed puzzles, there's bigger puzzles in order to get to those smaller puzzles, there's lots of characters to talk to, all speaking in mildly vague terms, but it's presented in a really fantastic way with this narrator reading all the dialogue as if they were reading you a children's story. The overall look and feel of the game is fantastic, and the narrator does such a good job at pulling you into the story. It just fits really well together. I don't have a ton to say otherwise about this game. It's just simple, it's well put together, and it's a good experience that you can sit down and finish in 1 or 2 sittings. I don't think it's the best game ever or an amazing game, but it's like the upper echelon of good. A lot of old school puzzle games come from a first-person perspective or they're point-and-click games, so if you've somehow never played a puzzle game from a third-person perspective and you don't know where to start and you'd like to, Last Campfire is your perfect starting point.
Lunistice.
Lunistice is a cheap, really fun-looking platforming game, and it takes less than 3 hours to beat on a first playthrough. You collect these paper cranes, you beat up enemies, but all in all your task is simple. Just platform your way from the beginning to the end of the level. There's several different maps, each with its own distinct flavor and really funky music, and some of them have really cool gimmicks, not all of them, but like there's this one where the music doesn't play when you start, and you wonder if perhaps something broke in the game, but then as you play through the map, you unlock the music and bring it back in. It was just a genuinely unexpected but really pleasant moment to experience. It's short and sweet and to the point. Great for speed running or a time challenge, and once you beat the game, there are 2 more characters that change how the game is played, and there's an incentive to collect all pieces to do 100%. I think there's some extra levels, I didn't do it. Per dollar that you will spend on this game, the value is undeniable, and I really recommend it to people who love old school platforming games. It feels old school and new school in all the right places.
Evoland.
Evoland or Evoland, I don't know how you say this thing, is one of the oldest games on this list, a short experience that is meant to take you through the journeys of RPGs, sometimes gameplay-wise, but mostly just graphically. It does feel a bit gimmicky at times, and to be perfectly honest, the joke kind of got old for me really fast. It's really inconsistent and shallow. Sometimes it's being a jokey parody and the gameplay is a joke, so it's actually kind of rage-inducing and legitimately difficult. The story is so generic intentionally so, but it also just got to the point where I stopped paying attention. It's kind of a shame because there are some really cool puzzle aspects in there, like when you go from 2D to 3D, it's implied that time has passed, so in 2D there might not be a tree there or might be a baby tree, and if you kill it, it won't be there in the 3D version. But the combat in this game never feels good. The turn-based combat goes on forever and never changes, and the final boss fight is cool, but it's just a new mechanic that's never seen at any point in the game. It's not a bad game, but I'm not sure it knew what it wanted to be when it started. If it was a Flash game, it would be very easy, simple fights with crude humor. If it was made now, it would be a very legitimately challenging variety gameplay with a little bit of everything, but we're in the middle of those 2 periods of gaming, and what we got was just kind of a proof of concept more than anything. There's just something about a long grind that takes the joke away, but I haven't gotten to Evoland 2 yet. I've heard it's a lot better and more fleshed out, but also like 4 times as long, so stay tuned for some point. I'll get to it eventually. So if you're watching this video on the day it comes out, December 31st, 2025, first off, thank you. Happy New Year. Please be safe tonight. I love you. But also at this point, we are now caught up with the Ghost Boy videos because I started late and I'm only doing 1 a week because I don't want to, shift all of my focus over there. I have quite a few left over, as you can tell, because this is 34 games and we're not at 34 games yet. So I will be starting again in February, and it will take until the end of April or so to get caught up with the rest of the videos. But as I mentioned earlier, if the Ghost Boy channel hits 1,000 subscribers, which is my goal to hit by the end of 2026, I will start uploading videos twice a week. Instead of just Sundays, I'll go Wednesday and Sunday. And if we hit it before summer, for 2 months in the summer, I'll even upload 3 times a week over there. So you'll get a ton of content. I normally get about 1,000 views on my first day of uploading on Reality Escape. So if statistically half of you go over right now to that channel and subscribe, we might be able to hit 1,000 a lot sooner than I had hoped, and it would be a tremendous help in terms of my career and help my longevity here on YouTube, because it would allow me to get videos out way more often, and then instead of looking for freelance work, that would be my thing that makes me money, and then I could continue to work here on Reality Escape with my other time. If you decide to go and subscribe to the Ghost Boy channel, thank you so much. It will help me a tremendous amount, and you get longer form videos on all of the games I've talked about and I'm about to talk about. Everything that you're about to hear from me now for the rest of these videos have all been written, I just haven't made them yet.
Valley.
Valley is a game made by Blue Isle Studios, the follow-up to their smash hit Slender: The Arrival. What seems like it has potential to be a walking simulator at first actually turns into a whole experience that has platforming and running fast and bringing things to life, and there's you can shoot things, but it's not like a gun, and you can climb on walls and you can swing from hooks and you shoot at balls of energy and you try to uncover the mystery of the valley. While it doesn't necessarily excel in everything it tries to do, nothing feels too bad or out of place. The movement is really fun, albeit limited, though there is some limited platforming in a traditional sense. It's mostly just jumping around and swinging from something. When you fall from tremendous heights, the sound of the landing is so satisfying. The shooting mechanics are really basic, but what I really enjoy is this energy meter in the top left, which acts as your ammo and your life, but it's also tied to abilities like double jumping or swinging from hooks. Unfortunately, there's only one moment in the game where it really takes advantage of this, where you really have to use it as a resource and try to make sure you don't run out of anything, but maybe if you're a reckless player or something, you'll get more of a challenge out of this. But that was by far my favorite part of the game, and I hope to see something expanded on that, where all of your resources come from a single thing. The story of the game is roughly that you're an archaeologist going after an ancient item called the Life Seed, and on your journey you stumble upon an abandoned military complex from World War II, and you hear audio logs of two characters who basically tell you the whole story of the game. At no point do you ever meet another living human. The story is completely told in the past. The story at its core isn't complicated, but sometimes there's a few inconsistencies that makes it hard to follow, and oftentimes they repeat information through environmental storytelling as well as exposition just to really hammer stuff home. Like, someone will say something and then you'll pick up a note and it says the exact same thing. But then there are other things that are kind of just left unsaid and implied, and it doesn't really give you that resolution you're looking for. The story itself is intriguing, but the game doesn't lean on it too heavily. It doesn't really lean on the game mechanics either. It doesn't really lean into anything. It kind of just hopes that once you start playing, you'll see it through. The game's only 5 or 6 hours long, so I think once you get the hang of the movement, and if you like the movement, it's worth finishing once you've started it. I enjoyed my time with it. It kind of is a shame to see the studio shy away from games like this with their latest releases, but I'm hoping that maybe they'll go back to this sort of thing, because it really feels like it's their own thing, and they executed it quite well. But it does leave you wanting just a little bit more, because it kind of ends just as things get really interesting gameplay-wise. At its core, it's a game about exploration, and if you like constantly being thrown new things and discovering the truth behind a big conspiracy, then I would recommend Valley to you with no hesitation.
Galaia.
Galaia or Galaia or Galaia, another game I can't pronounce, is a lovely little twin stick shooter roguelike that can be finished in a sitting of maybe 3 to 6 hours. Really depends on your skill level. I'm really bad at these games, so it took me a while. The game is tricky, and after the first hour or so, you've kind of unlocked everything there is to unlock, but there are still so many secrets to uncover. And what's really cool is that with a game like this, it's so small, there's not like a wiki page or anything. So if you want answers, you're just gonna have to go find them yourself. My biggest issue is that you stop getting upgrades so early on, and you keep collecting the resources for them, but you have nothing to do with them. And then the game becomes a little bit of skill, a little bit of luck, but mostly a hey, hopefully you get the items you want for this run. And there's just a lot of resetting, which even then they don't make easy. You have to replay the first level before getting your first major artifact, so then you might not like it and then reset anyways, and it just takes a little bit too long. But, you know, I also get it. If you keep having infinite upgrades, then it makes the game a little too easy. You want there to be some skill involved. I don't know what the right answer is there. The game is genuinely tricky, and it contains elements of both getting upgrades to help the game be easier, but you as the player also need to make sure you're learning from your mistakes and get better in order to win. When you encounter a boss for the first time, you probably won't kill them on your first try, and you just have to hope you learned enough by your second try. Their items are certainly limited, and you'll find your preference of playstyle sooner than later, but I had a ton of fun with this, and I would recommend it to anyone who's looking for a short challenge that you could probably beat in a few hours. And the game is like $1.50 Canadian, which is a steal in my opinion. And if you manage to do one of the big secret things where you have to pick up an item at the end of the first act and go all the way to the end of the third without getting hit, please let me know if you manage to do that, because I really want to know what happens.
Far. Lone Sails.
What may seem like a resource management game akin to something like FTL is actually much different, but definitely still worth playing. In Far Lone Sails, you travel along a vast post-apocalyptic wasteland. Not with zombies or radioactive waste or anything like that, not with anything. You're the only living thing you see and borderline the only moving thing you'll see, and you will pilot this large rolling vehicle using resources to burn fuel, making sure it doesn't get too damaged, and raising and lowering the sails. The reason I say it's not really a survival game is because there's no surprises. Everything is scripted, with a few moments that you can accidentally, screw yourself to make it a little bit harder, but as long as you pay attention and stay the course, you'll be fine. The game knows when it wants to give you hard times and when it wants to ease up. And knowing that this is that kind of game, you will still actually feel extremely tense during these moments when the game wants you to. Inversely, you'll get this calm feeling and you'll get to catch the vibes of nothing going on and just check out the atmosphere when the game wants you to. The pacing is all over the place, but in a really good way. The game is really good at dictating what it wants you to feel in that moment. And the game will not make you weather a storm that it hasn't given you time to prepare for. It's not a rage game. It's not a, oh, go back and do this better. It's giving you plenty of time to make sure you're ready to go. I only got stuck once, and it's really just because there was a thing where the game was doing a thing that it hadn't done before, and I just wasn't really paying attention and I didn't really understand, but I figured it out eventually. But ultimately, the game wants you to win. It's trying to take you on a journey. It's not trying to make you beat it. I won't get into spoilers for this video too, but I know quite a few people out there have probably played this game, so I'll just say this. There's not much of a story, really, but the ending made me emotional, and it is an absolute mastercraft in short form storytelling without a single word needing to be said. If you want a 3-hour journey unlike anything you've ever played, this is for you. And yes, there is a sequel. I will try to get to it at some point next year.
Tobla, Divine Path.
Tobla Divine... Oh, I don't have to do that. I keep doing that, but I don't have to. I have a British person to do it for me. This game is a Portal-inspired first-person puzzler, and it wears the inspiration of the game on its sleeve. It's not trying to hide that it is a Portal fan game. It's got an almost identical plotline. This goddess picks you up, gives you powers to do tests, but then turns evil on you. It has cubes that you have to pick up and put onto platforms. It has pressure plates that you need to put things on to open doors, and grids that prevent you from engaging in the game core mechanics. The twist here is that instead of teleporting the player around, the player can zap and switch the location of 2 different objects. This combined with pillars that you need to power up and bombs that can only be moved a certain amount of times before they explode, there's a really decent setup here. Unfortunately, the game plays it extremely safe. It only lasts about 3 hours and only has 2 puzzles that really stumped me. And I'm pretty bad at games, so that's a good indicator of ease. And ultimately, it creates a really solid foundation, but it just left me wanting something more, something with more intensity. What they've created is an amazing first half of a game. And, sometimes when you want more, it's a bad feeling, but this was a feeling of man, I want more. That was awesome. That was great. Now, the dialogue is definitely heavy and unneeded. It goes a little too far into the quirky territory, even for me, which is saying something because I'll pretty much defend any game's dialogue, but you can kind of just keep walking and ignore it, and I don't think it's going to ruin the game for anybody. I still really enjoyed the game, and if you're a Portal fan looking for a quick game night and wanting to experience a similar type of puzzle mechanic with a twist, you might very well enjoy this game. It won't fill that void in your heart, but it'll make you forget about it for a night.
Straftat.
I've never been terribly into competitive first-person shooters, mostly because I'm really bad at them, so when I did play them, it was always co-op. I always had to play with somebody I knew. But even then, I had fun 1v1 Halo experiences once upon a time in my younger days, and occasionally I do yearn for them, and Straftat filled that void for me, and it's amazing. The matchups are incredibly fast. You find each other within a few seconds and a couple shots and you're done. It has around 70 maps for free, so after one map is done, you go straight to the next. Some are just straightforward maps, some are super gimmicky. It's always kind of a fun surprise to see what they've come up with and what comes up next, and there's even more DLC maps if you want to pay a bit extra. It's really fun just to be in a call with your friends shooting each other, and then when the map pops up, you go, oh, this one. That's how you know it's a fun game. I can't speak for weapon variety because I just don't play enough of these kind of games, but there's some fun, quirky ones, and, you know, there's some ones that shoot through walls and some propeller ones. I don't know. I can't speak from an expert's perspective, but from the perspective of someone who generally doesn't like these games, I had a ton of fun, although sometimes it's also about the company that you play with.
Whoa! Wow!
Thank God I had all those shots and I missed with every single one. They also recently released a 2v2, which I haven't tried yet, and I think there's proximity chat as well. I don't know if I would ever play this game with strangers, but look, this game is free. Yeah, this game is completely free. Go have some fun with some friends and shoot each other for a few hours. You deserve it, man. And woman, non-binary, you all deserve it.
FPS Chess.
Another free FPS game, FPS Chess is another really fun game to 1v1 your friends in. The game starts like a chess match, but anytime you take over a piece, it turns into a 1v1 combat, and every piece has a unique weapon and special ability, and if you win the 1v1 combat, then you win that encounter, so you can technically defend a piece. And then all pieces also have an alternate ability set, so you can actually play more than one way, and you can mess around with the settings and customize it. According to Steam, it's a student project, and while it's not perfect and there are some balancing issues for sure, it's a ton of fun to play with a friend, as long as you don't like take the game too seriously, because yeah, there will be some BS with balancing and there are some glitches and stuff, but it's all part of the experience. That first few playthroughs when you're in the discovery process with a friend is super great and memorable. After that, once you realize you don't need to be good at chess, then you can start strategizing, and then it just goes off the rails. Another fun, free game that you should try with a friend.
Spy vs. Spy.
Alright, now I normally like to go with indie or AA games, but every now and then I like to find an old random NES game and give it a go, and Spy vs. Spy has been on my list for a very long time. It's based off of an old comic book strip, and as a head-to-head game, it's very fun, but it is deeply unserious. It's a game that encourages screen peeking. Everything's on the screen all the time. You either need to kill your opponent enough times that their timer runs out, or collect all the items needed to escape in the airplane. You can kill your opponent by either just attacking them directly or by laying traps, and then when they're searching for items, it'll kill them, but it can also kill you, and you have unlimited traps, so sometimes the game can go to a stalemate where you're just surrounded by traps, and sometimes you can't get to your friend because they've trapped the thing as well. Disabling them can be confusing sometimes. We never quite figured it out, and ultimately you have to make some sort of progress or the timers will just tick down. There's also different size maps, so it can get massive games. And although the NES has limitations and it's confusing to read the map oftentimes and figure out where you're going because there's different levels to the maps, to me it just adds to the chaos. It's a very fun game to just cheese and troll, but if you're playing with someone who is more concerned about winning over having fun, probably not the best game, but otherwise I highly recommend it. It's a fun time, and just don't get caught up in the mechanics, but also someone make a modern version of this, please.
Find 100 ducks and blast them.
In this game, you find 100 ducks and blast them.
Strayed lights.
What? No, I'm serious. It's a game where you find 100 ducks and blast them. It's free. Go play it yourself. Why are we still talking about this? Strayed Lights is a very artistic Soulsborne type game that has a ton going on, yet somehow remains very simple and easy to understand. The story of the game is very vague. They don't tell you much of anything, but you can understand what's happening just from vibes alone. Your main mechanic is parrying, blocking an enemy's attack, which not only blocks damage to you, but also damages your opponent. Your opponent will swap colors. My chat told me it's red and blue, but the game on Steam says blue and orange, but I turned on colorblind mode, so I don't know what colors these are. I just know they're different. And thank you, devs, for putting in a colorblind mode. But either way, your parries won't do damage unless you match the color of your enemies. And then you have these purple attacks, which cannot be parried at all. You just have to dodge and roll around and get out of the way. There is an attack which you may be more inclined to use, but it does so little damage that it's almost not worth it. So make no mistake, parrying is how you're going to do 99% of the damage in this game. There's also a skill tree to help you out, like there's an ability where you can make color switching irrelevant for a short amount of time, but nothing will really change the premise of the game. Switch the colors, parry the attacks. There can be a lot going on considering you only fight one or two things at a time, but it's truly a game where you just get better by playing and figuring out the timing of the enemy attacks. You have to parry slightly before attacks, and sometimes that's a bit tricky to get used to. My instinct is always to parry at the exact moment of an attack. The walking is also incredibly annoying because your character slides down these slopes like crazy, and the smallest hole will send you to your death. But this is another game that may have been better served as a boss rush, but the moments in between bosses aren't too intense. So if you're looking for a 4 to 5 hour challenge with some interesting timing mechanics, this might be for you.
Omno.
Omno is a solo dev game based on exploration and very light puzzles, with no dialogue or direct storytelling, but it still just tells a really lovely story in a masterful and yet subtle way that I can't give away without spoilers, but it got me emotional, that's all I'll say. It's a very chill and relaxing game, save for one puzzle which is a deal harder than everything else, but puts a good emphasis on exploration more than anything, making it a game achievable by almost all skill levels. 100%ing it takes maybe 5 hours at most. If you don't 100% it, I legitimately think you could beat it in an hour or two. So it's one of those games that if you're going to bother to pick it up, just do the whole thing. It's better that way. You may get lost a little bit. The game tracks some items, but maybe doesn't track other items. And then when they introduce teleporting, it's a little bit confusing because you'll forget where you've been and where you have yet to go. But it's nothing egregious. You just might have to wander a little bit. The visuals alone are just so nice, and the creatures that roam around the world have such a great care and thought and detail into them. My one criticism with this game is that it costs like $25 Canadian, and I cannot recommend it for that price. But it goes on sale quite often for like $2.50, and I cannot recommend that enough for that price. It's a steal, and it's just a nice, relaxing evening. It's not too stressful. There's nothing too high stakes. It's just fun.
The Pathless.
The Pathless is headed by creative director Matt Nava, who is also the art director on Journey, and you can tell right away the game is just visually gorgeous. While at first glance you may suspect this to be a combat-based game, it's actually more so broken down into 3 different elements. It's exploration, it's puzzles, and it's boss fights, which are really just timed puzzles. There's a really cute story that at first seems like something that you can ignore, but later it becomes something you're quite invested in. It sneaks up on you a little bit, and while still somewhat remaining vague and not over-explaining things either, the exploration has no map, just a vague mechanic that you can kind of see where you need to go, but the map is so big that as you walk towards one puzzle, you'll probably lose it and then find like 5 more, so kind of part of the fun. It's not a straightforward journey, but the exploration and movement mechanics are quite fun in themselves. I could just zoom around for hours. Of course, graphically, the game is stunning. The music is also great, although I wish the melodic parts chimed in just a little bit more often because it's good. And some of these darker red parts of the game just look incredible and give off such an intense atmosphere. There's this one weird mechanic where you have to hide from these things on fire, and it's the only part that graphically looks odd to me. It looks like something from the Nintendo 64. Like, I know what they were trying to do, but it just doesn't quite look right. But otherwise, I love everything else about this game visually. This is also a great example of a game that doesn't need a death mechanic. During boss fights, you'll sometimes just get knocked out of the area, and you simply pick yourself back off and get back to it. The boss fights are basically puzzles, but they move a lot more and require more timing and precision, but there just wouldn't be any benefit to killing the player and making them restart from the beginning. You just pick yourself back up and get going again. All it would do is just delay things for no reason, and you can still feel satisfied at the end of the day when you beat these things. It's still tricky enough that even without dying and resetting, you still feel like you've accomplished something. You only need to do a certain amount of puzzles in each area, and the game makes it clear that there are a ton of extra puzzles if you desire to do them. You can definitely get lost in this game for a good 10 to 15 hours if you want to. The same studio also recently released Sword of the Sea, which I haven't had a chance to play yet, but I've heard good things from those who have. All in all, this is just a really fun, good time, but there will be lots of wandering and lots of puzzles that will sometimes pick at your brain a little bit, but in my opinion, worth the time spent playing.
Koa and the 5 Pirates of Mara.
This is a very basic platformer, but it has a very odd mechanic. There are no double jumps or wall climbing. The base walking and running for that matter are very slow. The only way to make real speedy progress is by jumping just before you land, hitting another button to roll, and then jumping out of that roll, landing into another roll, and repeating. That's pretty much it. For some people, it might feel limiting. To me, it feels like it's a challenge. There are 8 differently themed levels. Only a few have interesting gimmicks, like this one where the platforms turn off and on every time you jump, or there's ones where the platforms just disappear on a set timer, but beyond that, there's not a ton there. There's health, but not all stages take advantage of it. There's no enemies to avoid or kill, but there's a few boss fights, some really annoying underwater levels as well, which I can't stand. I know it's a thing about underwater levels, but I could not do these. The story is not something to write home about. There's so many characters, and they mention a dozen more that are never seen. It seems that this is a part of a broader series of games, and that all of these characters have met before in other games, and we're supposed to kind of know that, but there's no indication that that's the case. So unfortunately, what's left is a lot of dialogue that is constantly interrupting the player when all you want to do is keep playing and moving forward. There's a Steam review where someone says something like, "Did I miss something? Why does everyone know each other already? Is this the second part of a game?" And I thought it was funny until I played the game and I was like, oh no, they're right. One thing that's super cool about this game is that every map has its own speedrun leaderboards built into the game, which is so cool. And there's also medals for gold, silver, and bronze that will help you unlock more things. So you can just play the map nice and slow, take your time, but if you want to, take that extra step, try to go for a gold on every map, or heck, go for the speedrun, go for a top 10 on every map. There's a few things that could be better optimized or explained, and sometimes you just get stuck on one particular jump because you have to roll out of every jump or you're not going to make it far enough, but you don't have a pronounced shadow underneath you either, so it can be really hard to tell where you're going to land. The depth perception isn't perfect. I'm not too experienced in platformers to say whether or not this is great. I enjoyed it for what it was. I definitely got frustrated at some parts, and I definitely gave up speedrunning about halfway through, and I just focused on finishing the game rather than getting a good time. I also had a few levels where I just got stuck for a long period of time, but I mean, any game I play, that's gonna happen. It's not an S-tier platformer by any means, but if you look at the controls from a perspective of being a challenge rather than bad design, which I don't think it is bad design, but I could see some people thinking it's bad design, and you also don't mind skipping, a couple hours of dialogue. That's a joke. I'm sorry. A lot of dialogue. Then you might enjoy this. I enjoyed the speedrunning parts quite a bit when I decided to just lock in and focus on that.
Power Hover.
What's commonly known as a runner game, Power Hover is both a mobile game and a Steam game, which I didn't know it was a mobile game when I bought it, and truthfully, I only bought it because it was on sale for 72 cents. It's a game that you only need one hand for, as there's only one mechanic, go left and right. Now, in its defense, it has some swaying that gives it some challenge, and there are a lot of different level types to keep it interesting, and I did enjoy the challenge for what it's worth. At the end of every section, you have to do a level where you just have to survive as long as you can, and those were legitimately challenging. Unfortunately, this game for me ended at one final level where I couldn't see far enough ahead or far enough behind me to avoid dying. I just didn't have enough time to turn or react. Now, I'm sure if I had stuck with it, yeah, I could have beaten it, but I got 4.5 hours out of this game. I felt justified in stopping there. This is one of the first times I just couldn't bring myself to finish a game, the other one being the cards one. And normally I'm pretty determined to see it through, but truthfully I had a few people who wanted to play poker in my Discord, and that just sounded way more fun, and I won the game, in case anyone's wondering. But if you're just looking to zone out and zoom left and right for a bit, honestly, it's not the worst. You can just pick up and play for a little bit, but it might be better as a mobile game.
GZLNA.
I was really looking forward to how she was going to pronounce this, because I didn't give her a guide or anything, but personally, that was a bit of a cop-out by just saying the letters. I would call it GZLNA, which sounds like one of the witches from Wicked in a Big Bang Theory episode, and yes, that's references to 2 different properties that I've never seen. This game is really short, but it is an incredibly odd experience with full Portuguese cinematics, dialogue that is either very poorly translated or so incredibly artsy that it's beyond what my tiny brain can comprehend, as well as just really compelling gameplay that ended far too soon. I've just never seen cinematics like this in a game before. It even gets a little raunchy, excuse me ma'am. And while it's completely disconnected from the gameplay experience, I think it adds to the charm. At no point did I have any idea what was going on, or what I was doing, or why I was doing it, but I pretty much enjoyed every moment of it. The gameplay is this grid-based movement where you have to choose between attacking or rotating, and you have 3 abilities, and you can level up those abilities during gameplay, and you can level up out of gameplay, and there's just so much that it's trying to do that you can do that it's very difficult to orient yourself. And I think that's part of the challenge. I never felt stable or 100% sure of my actions. I think that's what made it fun. I think if I could do everything I wanted to do right away, it would be too easy. But it was overwhelming in a really cool way because I knew what I wanted to do, but every button on the controller does something, and so it was really easy to just accidentally move the wrong direction or activate an ability when I didn't mean to. And it wasn't frustrating either. It all felt intentional, I think, and I think that's why I liked it. If you simplified it and made it easier, the charm would be lost. The whole game is built around confusion, whether intentionally or not, and it just meshes really well together. Man, I really hope these devs come back with like an extended version of this gameplay and this cutscenes and just all of this. It's so cool. You can go watch the cutscenes for yourself on YouTube if you have time. It's like 22 minutes and it's really fascinating stuff.
The Gunk.
The Gunk is a game that doesn't quite know what it wants to be. It does have enemies and boss fights, but I wouldn't call it an action game. It's got some platforming, but not enough for me to say it's a central feature. And it does have some puzzles, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a puzzle game until it's very suddenly only a puzzle game, which is actually quite off-putting when that time comes. The main mechanic in this game is you using your gauntlet thing to suck up all this gunk, and it's sucking up a bunch of energy and like killing the plants. It's kind of Luigi's Mansion like. The real charm of the game, however, is the dynamic between the 2 main characters, Bex and Ronnie. It's a lot of talking back and forth and mentioning things in the past that the player obviously doesn't know about, but it's their dynamic that kept me invested enough to see this whole thing through. It's definitely an adventure. It's not bad by any means, but it's very linear and tries to do a few different things, and it feels weird when it does them sometimes. Like, the game is very chill and laid back until suddenly it's not very chill and laid back, and sometimes it's hard to follow that wave as a player. It's pretty easy to look at and get into, and it's not perfect by any means, but it's not bad either. I'd say it's perfectly down the line of being good and something that you should play if it looks like it would appeal to you.
Dosman Games.
Flash of the Blade X is the game I played on stream. It's a boomer shooter style game that's ninja based. Now, I haven't played many, if any, boomer shooters, so I really can't say whether this is good or not. It kind of just looks like someone modded a Minecraft game and then made it about ninjas and Doom or something. But hey, if you're a fan of these games, maybe this is worth a shot to play, and if you're not a fan of these games, maybe this is a good way to see if you're into it. I played 3 others by the same developer, Dosman Games, those games being Reaper, Night Jackal, and Dosman Space Aliens in Space. But I played the other 3 offline. I just didn't have time to stream them, and I don't particularly have much to say about them individually. I got them in a bundle and they were like 50 cents each. So if you're looking for something that's not that deep, just like an hour long, not super intense, not super challenging, and you just want to kill a bunch of things, then hey, go for it.
Pinball Spire.
A Metroidvania in the style of pinball because, well, why not? Pinball Spire puts you into a room. You need to solve whatever puzzle may be surrounding that room, whether it be hitting a switch or getting into a certain area or killing all the enemies. Besides flippers, you've got magic, which the most important one will be slowing down time to hit some precision shots. The game is pretty fun, but there's not a ton to do besides just progress, which is actually okay because, you know, it's pinball. But the precision aspect can be by far the most annoying, and at around the 3-hour mark of a 4-hour game, they make you go through every single level again, but only the precision parts, you know, the least fun part of the game, which I can only best describe as the game getting in its own way. I know what they're trying to do. It's trying to be nostalgic, like, oh, before the final boss fight, here's the journey you've been on, but it's only been 3 hours. It's not enough time for me to want to do all this again. That being said, the first 3 hours, outside of like one section that really frustrated me, is very fun. Now, you will have to backtrack at some point because that mana is so important, and so sometimes you'll have to let yourself fall to a previous map so that you can recharge your mana and then get back in. That kind of stuff just isn't that fun to me. There's a few levels where you have to do that, and all it does is just add playing time because it takes you 30 seconds to restart. I don't know why that was the choice that was made. You know, just make it so there's more mana there so that I can keep trying, or give me another way to do it that doesn't involve me leaving the level entirely, because then I just get frustrated. But while that's my biggest complaint, when the game is good, it's really good. It feels flawless, and you can breeze through a lot of the moments and not think too hard about it, and it's fun, and you're just trying to solve whatever puzzles in the room and see where you can go. It's just when the game tries a little bit too hard that it loses me a little bit, but I would absolutely pay for this and play it again and recommend it to some friends if they thought it looked cool.
Timemelters.
Timemelters is a tower defense, hero defense game where you'll have to keep targets safe, keep yourself alive, all while using the power of time travel and echoes. Basically your former self from a past run, and you can absolutely accidentally get in your old way or aggro someone you weren't supposed to and ruin the timeline and just get a bunch of different things going, but man, it really gets the brain working. Now, I played the game co-op. You can do solo or co-op, but please play this game co-op. If you and a friend have played Portal 2 together like 15 years ago and you've been looking to rack your brains over a game together, this is the one. I didn't play it solo, but I also think there's more levels co-op as well. But please, just do this co-op. Please, please. There's a few things I didn't love about the game. It gives you way too much information way too fast. Like, it's overwhelming. You barely have time to learn what your new powers do before you're given more. I'm also not exaggerating when I say there's probably 45 minutes of dialogue to skip through, and it's so much proper nouns and new characters and fancy names of towns and villains, and I just could not be bothered. The ending cutscene is legitimately like 15 minutes of reading on its own. And it's hard to get invested because the game doesn't finish the story. The last loading screen cheekily says like, oh, if you like this one, I'll do a second game, which like, okay, come on. That being said, it's a super unique game. The towers and the combat are not super deep by any means, so if you're looking for a really deep combat experience, you won't get that here, but the game makes you consider your strategy a ton. And I think there are multiple ways to do things. Sometimes it really makes you have to use a mechanic to beat a part, but sometimes you can kind of just accidentally figure out your own way through it. So it can really get the brain working. If you want a game where you and your buddy will sit there paused for 10 minutes staring at the map and pinging areas, debating on what your strategy is, then yeah, you should absolutely go play this with a buddy.
For the King.
I'm a little late on the For the King train, but what a sick game. You probably heard of it by now, it's old enough. You basically play turn-based with your buddies or control all three people if you're playing on your own, and you go around this tabletop RPG board game. It gives you objectives, enemies that litter the map, you can completely split the party, find new weapons, choose whether or not to share gold or resources. God, it's a really fun experience, especially with two other people. I will say this game is another one of those things that totally depends on your company. If you're going to be playing with people that are going like, oh my god, hurry up every 2 minutes, avoid it entirely, because there's a lot of waiting for the other two players to make their moves. But I'm only one play session in as of right now, so like just 4 hours or so, and I'm having an absolute blast. The two guys I'm playing with are both huge D&D nerds. They're my best friends, and so it was super easy for us to just slip right in and have a lot of fun. And we were messing with each other at the same time, and we were laughing at each other, and we were just catching up about life in general at the same time because there were those pauses in between. Everything's randomized as well, and there's different characters and different campaigns, and God, it's so deep. I'm just at the surface of this, so I'm looking forward to getting in, but I can see why the game has been so popular for so long, and I'm looking forward to like really just playing this for the rest of my life. Hey, before we wrap up this video, if you're still here, here's a little bonus for you if you made it this far, because why not? I also played some games you probably have heard of, because I'm not just the indie guy, I'm a cool hip guy, and I play cool video games that the cool kids all play. And so here's just some quick thoughts on those. Some of these will become Ghost Boy videos, most of them won't. Some games I have played that are not on this list because I don't want to spoil the upcoming Reality Escape content, but here we go.
Spec Ops: The Line.
Yeah, I forgot to tell Glassy to do the voiceover for these games. This was kind of a late addition, so I had a friend fill in.
Cheers, love. The cavalry's here.
That feels offensive? Is that offensive? Am I hurting? I don't know. I spent Christmas Day of 2024 playing Spec Ops: The Line. Please don't ask me why. I don't know why I made that choice. It was not a very fun Christmas, and in fact, a week later I was having the worst week of my life. I have made some terrible mistakes. Having made it through this long without any spoilers, I managed to just zone out long enough so I wasn't trying to guess what was ahead. And as a gift to myself, I finally watched Racevik's video on the game, which is funny because when I first met Racevik, he bugged me to play the game, and it's been like 10 years of occasionally saying, hey, you should play Spec Ops: The Line, so I finally did it, and while I'm not sure it's a game I'll ever play again because, my god, I think it's a game everyone should play at least once for a multitude of reasons, but man, that is a heavy game for sure. I immediately finished the game, and then I binged all 3 seasons of Ted Lasso to make myself feel better.
Watch Dogs.
The first time I ever played Watch Dogs, the game crashed on me, and I never went back to it despite really enjoying what I had played. I was never much of a GTA guy, so I didn't immediately see it as a clone like some people did, and I also just didn't care for the whole graphics controversy. I cared about it from the perspective of like people were paying expecting one thing and not getting it, but I didn't care enough to for it to make me not want to play the game, you know what I'm saying? I just decided I needed a week to do nothing else and play a game at some point in the last 2 years, so I was like, hey, Watch Dogs is on sale, I'll pick it up and I'll play it, just something super chill, not gonna turn it into a video or do anything else with it. And then of course within an hour I stopped playing and I started writing my goddamn script on it, so stay tuned for that in either late 2026 or early 2027, who knows honestly, but there will be a video on Watch Dogs.
Kingdom Come Deliverance.
This is one of those games that was on my list for a really long time, and I had owned it for a long time, so I bit the bullet and I just played for a bit. I don't remember what sparked me playing. I think I was just depressed and I needed something to lift me up a little bit. I actually had to stop playing because I was getting sucked in and I had things that I was supposed to be doing, but also I hadn't recorded any of the gameplay, and I actually have a video involving this game coming out sometimes 2030, maybe. Yes, I know that sounds insane. Like, what do you mean 2030? The truth is I have this really big project that I've been wanting to do for years. It's the reason I started a YouTube channel over 7 years ago. The problem is that it's basically about a year's worth of work uninterrupted, honestly maybe more than a year. And right now I want to be active on YouTube and I want to make cool videos that I've been holding back on, so I don't want to vanish entirely for another year to focus on that. So what'll probably happen is I'll start probably working on it like once a week while still doing everything else, and if for some reason I end up getting a 9-to-5 job and I kiss uploading consistently on this channel goodbye, I'll just vanish for a few years and only focus on that. It's literally a dream project of mine, and Kingdom Come Deliverance is a big part of it, and thus it must wait for now. One thing I will say is that I really liked a lot of the simulation aspects of the game, even though everything small and minor takes a really long time. It's very immersive and I kind of like that about it, but the combat is much too tricky when fighting more than one person, and I downloaded a mod that allows me unlimited saves, which I think I would recommend to like 99% of the people who play. It doesn't need to be a rage baity experience, trust me. Just let it be a normal video game. It's more fun that way.
Disco Elysium.
Genuinely, I think this is one of the greatest video games of all time, and I can't stand to look at it anymore because it reminds me too much of my ex. 10 out of 10, we'll never play again. On to the next one.
Castlevania.
My friends and I love to pull up random games and race them, and I had this brilliant idea that we should play the original Castlevania because, quote, it should only take about 3 hours. Oh God, what a mistake. It took us 3 sessions, I think over 10 hours total, and we had to use save states by the end because, you know, we're bad at video games. Which is also insane when you consider that Castlevania only has 6 different levels. The entire time we were playing, we groaned, we got annoyed, we raged, we screamed. Actually, it was just my friend Brennan that did most of those things.
Is that the Medusa?
He's got the Medusa.
Good job.
We all cried, it was frustrating, but literally as soon as we were done, all we could talk about for the next month was, man, that was such a fun, good game. Genuinely, it's built up in such a great way that you always feel like, okay, this will be the run, and then some totally unfair BS will happen, but you never lose hope. It's always, okay, now this will be the run, for reals. And then more BS happens, but you still keep that determination. It's such a great piece of gaming history, and you can see its influence in literally everything you play today. From Dark Souls boss rush games to almost any 2D platformer, any Metroidvania game, you can see this game's influence. If you've never played this classic, you absolutely should. Even if you use save states at some points, I don't care. It's a classic. Go play it and realize how good it is for its time.
Control.
I had watched a playthrough of Control back in the day when it first came out, and I regretted it because the game ended up looking really cool, but I had some reservations about how movement would mess with my motion sickness. And Brian Otto's AGDQ run is still one of my favorite speedruns to this day to watch. So I waited and I waited until I no longer remembered anything about the game before playing it again, which ended up being this year. I really enjoyed the game. There's so much going on, but it's really fun, albeit it can be frustrating at some times, but considering you get this game on sale for like $5, there's honestly no reason to not play it. And there's a sequel recently announced at the Game Awards, which I'm oddly excited for, despite the fact that I feel like it's a game that doesn't need a sequel, although I do really like the world they've established. I've also not played the Alan Wake games, and I didn't do the extended Control DLC stuff, but I might someday, so just don't ruin it for me. I will be making a video of my thoughts on Control, so stay tuned for that on the Ghost Boy channel.
Vampire Survivors.
This is a game where I really kicked myself for not having played it earlier. If you watched my video called "This Game is Ruining My Life," I talked about having easier games that I can idle while eating dinner, and this game was just perfect for that. I definitely got sucked in a bit and I started to play when I wasn't eating, but it's a super fun game and I've never had a huge desire to 100% a game like this, but I think I want to. I think I want to finish every map with every character in this game. There's also a lot of DLC I haven't gotten to yet. There's a new Balatro update, which is really cool, but I haven't had a chance to sink my teeth into that yet. My main issue with the game is that the grind becomes a bit too easy when you get the capability to farm eggs like crazy, and the new feature of allowing 3 AI with you does erase a ton of the challenge. But I don't mind, it's a really fun game. I totally get all the hype, and I'm surprised I didn't buy into it way back then. One thing I will say is that I have some mild light sensitivity, and this game doesn't have the proper settings to stop everything from flashing. Like, it stops some things, but not all things. It's probably the main reason I'm not playing right now while voice recording this. Excuse you?
Divinity Original Sin.
In early 2021, a friend and I decided that we were going to play Divinity Original Sin. It's the same friend who just made whatever that noise was. I originally was playing with someone else, but during COVID, that whole thing fell apart. So with me and my friend, both of our lives were thrown into chaos for various reasons after we were about halfway through, including both of us moving into a situation where we just weren't able to game together for like 2 years. But after that break, we finally finished the game this year. Our final session, which we thought was only going to be a few hours long, ended up being over 9. We have been friends for 21 years, and somehow Divinity Original Sin has been a part of our friendship for almost a quarter of it. We started this game shortly after Larian was just getting things ready for Baldur's Gate 3, although when I started my initial playthrough, I don't even know if they had the rights to Baldur's Gate yet. But there's just something I love about turn-based co-op RPGs. There's this room in the game that allows for conversation, strategizing, but also just having casual chats and catching up with your buddy, and Divinity was just a really good game for that. The game was never too easy, there was always a ton to do. Obviously my friend and I took a 2-year break in between, so we didn't exactly remember a ton of the story by the time we finished, but I can solidly say we loved the game the entire way through, up until the very, very end, and we had to go looking for these moonstones. The puzzle aspects where you have to figure things out aren't too impossibly hard, but we did use a guide sometimes because we're not like in the weeds about it, you know? The level scaling was pretty consistent, and we were constantly being challenged, and the gameplay is just really fun. Gameplay has a really enjoyable level of freedom to it that we never got tired of. Unlike a game like Baldur's Gate, which I've always wanted to play multiplayer with a full party, There's no disadvantage to playing this game co-op since there's 2 main characters regardless of what you do, and being able to take advantage of those mechanics where you would argue with each other and have differing opinions is super fun. The only downside I would say is that the story is hard to keep track of, mostly because you want to be off in an entirely different area. You could be having a conversation, your buddy won't hear it, and then they'll have to click in to listen to it when it really should just happen automatically. And because it is a very old school RPG, characters tend to monologue a ton, which again just doesn't really work well with the co-op setting tremendously well. If anything, the first half of the game is so strong in tone and story, and it kind of falls apart in the second half. So once you know kind of what's going on, don't look too deep into it. Just do yourself a favor and remember to get all the bloodstones and moonstones. Save yourself having to backtrack later like we did. But hey, if you love classic RPGs, turn-based combat, and want to go on a 50-hour adventure with a good friend, I can't recommend this enough. This is one game that me and my friend and I will probably talk about for the rest of our friendship, and I think besides me and my cousin playing Borderlands 2 like 10 years ago, this is the longest I've played a co-op campaign, and it probably will be for a while, at least until we play Original Sin 2.
Oh, right knackered with all this rubbish.
I apologize if that's offensive. I don't know. I love video games, and I love the video game industry. That much is probably obvious. I'm not smart enough, nor do I have the skills to be a part of the industry from a game-making perspective, but I feel like I've been given this platform, and for some reason, there are a few people watching this video right now. It can be hard to love the game industry sometimes. There's massive layoffs, union busting, broken pre-orders, heavy uses of AI, workplace harassment. Anytime there's a female character in a video game, people unironically say woke, and it makes my shoulders hurt from all the cringing. But to me, the indie game is the heartbeat of the industry. The revolution has happened, and we're still kind of going strong. Most of these games you saw were made by small studios, indie or AA, sometimes solo devs who had no guarantee of success. There was no promise that they'd be the next big thing, and honestly, in some cases, it wasn't the next big thing. Some of the games on this list sold less than 1,000 copies. Some of the studios have already closed down, or they've combined with others, or devs have started working for different companies. Some have even left the industry entirely. I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money, and I'm certainly not going to tell you not to buy AAA games, because I get it. The world sucks a lot these days, and we need those distractions. We need those times to get lost in other worlds to, well, escape from reality. Lord knows that I've needed that this year. But if you're as tired as I am of the disregard for humanity coming from AAA studios at times, then don't be afraid to remind them where the power lies. Because the power always lies with the consumer. You have the money and you can choose where you spend it. If you're someone who has said, man, all video games are boring, they all look the same, they all play the same, they're all doing the same thing, then please take a look at this list again. The games are out there, you just have to go look for them, and I want to help with that. We can support smaller studios who treat their employees with dignity, who don't give you a pre-ordered game that doesn't work on launch, that give you a free 10-hour DLC just because they're so thankful for you playing their game. I'm not asking you to replace your library or never play a AAA game again. I'm just asking you, if you're watching this, to maybe make a commitment. Just once this year, at one point this year, find a cool indie game that you've never heard of in the mainstream that maybe costs less than $10. Buy it, play it, just think about it. Think about game design. Think about the thought process behind the game. Think about the choices that were made, the intentions behind the mechanics. Think about if a AAA game would make those same choices, could they do it better, or is this something that could only be an indie game? I don't want AAA gaming to go away, but I do want it to be better, and the one way to do that is through your wallets, which is why I sincerely hope that there is at least one, just one game on this list that you think looks cool, and you've added it to your Steam wishlist, or even better, it's already in your cart, and you're gonna go buy it and play it. And maybe through that, you'll find a few other indie games that you want to play. And if I can convince even one person to buy one of these games showcased in this video, you have no idea how happy that would make me. And my goal ultimately doesn't stop there. Every year on December 31st, I will be uploading another one of these videos showcasing all the indie or AA games I played that year in hopes to give you at least one cool thing you haven't heard of before that maybe you want to try yourself. And of course, I'll be uploading weekly videos on my second channel, Ghostboy259, where I'll cover the rest of these games in this video and a bunch of new ones. And I really hope that you guys follow me on that journey. Take yourself through a trip and find some really cool things from the most unique part of the industry. Gaming still has so many amazing places that it can take us. It just feels like we've got so many more cool places to go, and every time I feel like I've seen it all, I find something new that astonishes me. I was talking to a relative last week about the YouTube algorithm. He's over 70, but decently tech savvy, and he asked me if the algorithm just sucks now, because it always sends you to the same old crap. I told him that the algorithm is like a restaurant. If you're new to town, maybe you'll only know McDonald's. But if you're willing to put in the work, ask around, read online reviews, you may just find your favorite mom and pop owned diner. And I hope that's the kind of experience I can deliver to you through these videos and this new channel, just something different. I'll do all the work for you, all I'm asking is that you give these games a chance. Have you ever heard of or played any of these games before on this list? Please let me know. The person with the highest score who has heard of or played the most games wins nothing, but just do it anyways, alright? Don't make a fuss about it. Have any of these games piqued your interest? Is there any that you're going to go out and play or put on a Steam wishlist? Please let me know. I'd love to hear what kind of games you normally play and what out of this list has caught your eye. And also feel free to recommend me games. I have a pretty decently deep library of games that I already intend to play, but if there's a small indie game and you feel like no one's ever played that game before, maybe I already have it, and if I do, I'll bump it up on my list and I'll play it sooner just for you. I also want to say thanks to every patron I've had over the years. The day after this video goes up, January 1st, 2026, marks 7 years since I uploaded my first video on this channel. And for all intents and purposes, I am a failure. I am a one and done, a one-hit wonder, and I have failed to capitalize on any of my success that I've gotten. Last year, 2025, was the worst of my life for so many reasons, and even now I feel a bit broken and just quite frankly exhausted. But I'm determined to pick myself up and do something with my life, and I'm hoping it'll be through some of these videos that I have coming out this year, because I feel like some of them are just bigger than me. This is going to be the biggest year ever on the channel, at least in terms of how much content I upload, and I'm really thankful for those who have come along with the journey, who have continued to send nice words of support, who have told me that they never gave up on me and that they believed in me. You have no idea how much those have lifted me up during this time. All of my links are at realityescape.ca if you want to keep up with me or my projects or what I'm doing. Come hang out on Twitch, recommend me games, all that stuff. We have a Discord, we have a really cozy community. We'd love to have you. Until then, everyone, please stay safe, and let's hope this new year is one to remember for all of us. I'll see you real soon, and remember, play some good games.